Pass for Maverick. Pass Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Board meeting. Today is Monday, July 22, 2024. It is 12:09 p.m. We will begin with the establishment of quorum. Present today, as of right now, I don't know, do we have the judge? Judge Cantu is not here yet.
There he is. He's coming in.
Okay. We have Judge Cantu present. He's the vice chairman for this organization. We also have Councilman Elias Diaz. We have Commissioner Olga Ramos. We also have present Sarah Hidalgo Cook of SWORT and Epigmenio Gonzalez, the district engineer for TxDOT. So we do have a quorum to proceed. At this time, we'll move to a moment of reverence. Here in Eagle Pass in Maverick County, we always like to take a moment out of respect for our military. So if we could please do that in their honor. Thank you. Citizens' communication and recognition. None submitted. So at this, yes?
So Mayor, if I may,
There.
during this section, if it would be agreeable to the board, we would like to do introductions. It's a new committee, a lot of new faces, and I think we're all getting to know each other. So in the interest of being, even everybody, if we could start with the board members introducing themselves and their position or their daytime job, and then we would also like to give the opportunity to any other elected officials, representatives from FHWA and Texas Department of Transportation. So if I could ask you, Mayor, to start with an introduction?
Absolutely. Rolando Salinas, I'm the mayor for the city of Eagle Pass and also serve as the chairman for this board.
Judge?
Yes, and good morning, good afternoon. Rams English Cantu, Maverick County Judge, serving also as the vice chair for the MPO.
Commissioner Ramos?
All right, good afternoon. Epigmenio Gonzalez, I'm the district engineer for the Texas Department of Transportation, Laredo District.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Olga Ramos, and I'm Maverick County Commissioner for Precinct 3, and I'm a board member for this board.
Good morning, Elias Diaz, City Councilman for the City of Eagle Pass.
Good afternoon. Sarah Hidalgo Cook, General Manager for Southwest Area Regional Transit District, also known as SWORT.
Thank you. Let's see. Let's go to Tribal, Kickapoo Tribe. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, my name is Gustavo Elizondo Jr. I am an Economic Development Board member for the Kickapoo Traditional Tribe of Texas.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Arturo Garza, Economic Development Secretary for the board member.
Good afternoon. Gonzalo Garcia, with the Kickapoo Traditional Tribe of Texas, Tribal Administrator.
City of Eagle Pass Administration.
Ivan Murua, Assistant City Manager. Homero Valderas, City Manager, City of Eagle Pass.
And then let's go to, would you like to do a quick introduction?
Sophie Garcia, City Attorney.
Ms. Ita?
Ita Cortinas, Assistant City Secretary.
And let's go to our TxDOT and FHWA representatives.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Tito Gonzalez, the Director for the Transportation Planning and Program Division for TxDOT.
Hello, everybody. Philip Tyndall. I'm the Metropolitan Planning Branch Manager in the Transportation Planning and Programming Division. I work under Tito in TxDOT.
Sarah Garza, TxDOT, TPP, and I'm the field rep for Eagle Pass.
I'm Bob Hazlett with Texas A&M Transportation Institute. I'm the program manager for the Transportation Planning Program at TTI.
My name is Kirk Favre. I'm a Federal Highway Administration rep for this Eagle Pass MPO. I'm based in Austin, Texas, and thank you for this meeting.
Thank you all for those introductions. So as far as MPO staff, as of right now, At least at this moment, that's me. My name is Plácido Madera, City of Eagle Pass Community Development Director, and currently acting as the MPO Planning Director. Thank you all for being here. These are very exciting times that we're getting this MPO started for our area. It's a sign of the growth in our area. A lot of hard work goes into that from our city, county, and various regional entities. So thank you all for being here, and I'm very proud to be a part of this. As we go, we do have a lot to cover, so I will mention we do have lunch provided by the City of Eagle Pass behind you. Feel free. I think the best thing would be to start serving yourselves, grab a plate, because we're going to have a lot of information to share, so you might as well be eating while we present. Philip, Bob, anything else in that section that you think we should cover? Okay, and then we'll go ahead, Mayor, move on to the next item.
At this time, we'll go ahead and move on to the oath of office to board members.
I, Rolando Salinas, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the Eagle Pass Metropolitan Planning Organization of the City of Eagle Pass, State of Texas, and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and of this state, and the charter and ordinances of this city. I furthermore solemnly swear that I have not directly nor indirectly paid, offered nor promised to pay, contributed nor promised to contribute any money or valuable things, or promised any public office or employment as a reward to secure my appointment or the confirmation thereof, so help me God.
Okay, now that everybody took the oath, we will move on to election of chairperson.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, so for this item, the bylaws, which we based ourselves off of kind of the standard, we looked at Laredo's and several others. What is proposed currently in the bylaws is that the mayor will be the chairman for this first term, and the county judge vice chair, and then every 2 years that would alternate. So if the board is in agreement with that, then we could proceed with that. I think we could go ahead and just take action on that if you'd like. Or if you'd like to go in a different direction, we're open to that as well.
I'll entertain a motion from somebody right now.
I'll entertain a motion.
I would so move, Mayor, that the positions be listed as they have been indicated in the bylaws, that the mayor serve as the chairman for this organization with the vice chair so listed as in indication with the bylaws.
Thank you. We have a motion by Judge Cantu and a second by Councilman Diaz. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
It is, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. New business, item number 1. Thank you, Judge. Discussion and consideration for approval of Eagle Pass Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO, bylaws and operating procedures. Mr. Madera?
Yes, thank you. So again, I know maybe nobody wants to be the first one to jump in there. Do you think we need to take a quick break so everybody feels comfortable getting in line and grabbing a plate? Or do you want to continue and I'll start presenting while people go ahead and grab grab something. How would you like to handle it?
Yeah, we can give people time to get some
Let's take a
food.
brief, a brief break so everybody can go ahead and grab their food.
Maybe 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, very good.
Let's make it 3 minutes.
Over. And within the blue is where those 50,000 population of urban population resides. So you have most of it around the city of Eagle Pass and surrounding, and then we also have a cluster closer to the Kickapoo tribal lands and Rosita Valley area. And then on the middle is a map of Maverick County, which you could hopefully barely see there. I overlaid the MPO boundary, which is there in the middle. So Maverick County is really large. Judge Cantu and his team cover a pretty huge area. So you can see this MPO is a small subsection of that. And then again, it doesn't show quite too well, but I showed a map of the tribal lands on the right, which would be at the bottom in that separate blue section there in the MPO map. So we'll now get into the actual bylaws, which you have before you in your packets. We followed very closely Laredo's bylaws. We got a lot of help. Thank you so much. TxDOT friends and TTI friends. Couldn't have done it without you to get to where we are presenting these items for you today. But the key components of the bylaws are the mission statement, the definition, purpose, and authority, membership terms, and amendments. So the mission statement is there on the screen before you. And that's to set a transportation-related policy, identify existing and future local transportation needs in cooperation with the Texas Department of Transportation, and propose and recommend projects for all modes of transportation, including mass transit and active transportation, with special attention to freight. Any comments, thoughts about the mission statement? And then we have definitions and purpose. which you have before you. I don't know if you'd like to take a few moments or have any comments or questions on Article 1, definitions, purpose, and authority. So one other key thing I would like to mention, I probably should have started out with this. So the board members here, you are the MPO. You are the body who will make the decisions and move this MPO forward. The decisions and actions will be based off of what is done in these type of public meetings. But what I do want to make sure you're well aware, so we're not set in stone here. If the bylaws as presented, which again we followed along Laredo, Webb County's bylaws, but if you'd like to change that at any future meeting, we could definitely bring amendments to this if we realize something isn't working out exactly as we would like. So just wanted to make that point.
I might be getting ahead of myself, but let's say the board makes decisions regarding the needs for transportation in the city, the county, the tribe, areas outside the city, and the funding, where does that come from?
That's a good question, and if I may, I'd like to get some help on that from our experts in the matter from TxDOT.
Yes, for the record, Philip Tyndall from TxDOT.
Thank you.
The bulk of the funding is federal, which means it's authorized through the state of Texas, through TxDOT, and TxDOT's responsible as the primary recipient for distributing the funds out to the various recipients. And in this case, when we're talking about primarily your planning funds, those are distributed by formula by TxDOT.
Got it.
So,
thank you.
sure.
I wanted to, Lasso, if I could, just kind of add, I was going to make some comments there, but since we're on the topic of funding real quick, I think it's important just to note, right, when it comes to the availability of funds, right, understanding, again, this is from my experience serving, right, on an MPO policy committee before in my previous role with the Laredo District, is just understanding what available funds, right, you all are going to have allocated to you, right, so understanding that I think is probably the most important thing, and then where those funds can be used is even more important, right?
Yes,
So if you go right now onto our TxDOT website, we have our draft 2025 UTP that's under public comment, and you will see there listed for category 2, which is our metropolitan urban corridors. The Eagle Pass MPO is showing a 10-year draft allocation of $27.7 million, right? If you go down to the next eligible category that you all have, it's category 10, carbon reduction, and you're showing about a 10-year balance of $4 million in that. So again, those are formula-based, those two specific categories. But then you're also going to see some other sheets, and you're going to wonder, well, hey, it says our name, but it's zero. Like, a lot of those have other requirements, right? So TMAs, which are larger, Placido mentioned, right? The larger MPOs that are over 200,000, they then get eligible for other funds. So in some cases, you're going to see your name on the list, but it's going to have zeros, right? So again, I think that's all just part of the education process, but our main job in TPP is to serve as a resource for you all to understand how to best utilize those funds. The district obviously is a key tool and resource for you all as well, but just kind of wanted to mention that. I'm sure there'll be a lot more conversations on that in the future, but we're really, what we're really here for is to help support and be a resource for you all.
So this is already part of the UTP?
It is already in the UTP. If you go onto UTP, if you go onto our TxDOT.gov website, and you type in 2025 UTP, you will see the draft up there, and the Eagle Pass MPO already has those funds allocated. That will be approved at our August 26th commission meeting. So
That's good to know. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Very good, very important question. The funding's always a key part of this. Any other questions on this bylaws item? So we can go to membership terms and administration then. And so as been briefly mentioned before, again, looking at following other MPOs, specifically Laredo's, shows who the MPO committee shall be composed of, and that's from City of Eagle Pass, one mayor, and then one city council member as appointed by the mayor in their sole discretion, Maverick County county judge, and one county commissioner as appointed by the Maverick County judge in their sole discretion. Southwest Area Regional Transit District, SWART, one SWART. Currently, it's listed as one board of directors member as appointed by their board's presiding officer in their sole discretion. My understanding from discussing with Ms. Sarah Hidalgo Cook is that the board chose to assign her, as she's not an actual board member, but they wanted to appoint her as this position. Do you want to, I guess, give us a little bit more detail about that?
So a little bit about SWART. We are actually now urbanized, but also a rural transit district that's covered by 8 counties. So our board of directors is made up of the 8 counties, 8 county judges that we serve, as well as an added position for the city of Eagle Pass. So that is still, I think we're just waiting for the final appointment by the city to be able to have them join our board of directors. But being that the board of directors are very spread out as far as county judges covering 8 counties, they've decided to appoint myself as the general manager to represent them on this particular board.
Which makes sense, since we already have Judge Cantu as a member, then that would mean to appoint another SWART board member, that would be another county judge. So I think that does make sense. And then State of Texas, TxDOT District Engineer, we have Mr. Epi Gonzalez. And then the member at large would be the 7th position, which there will be an agenda item later in this meeting where the committee here can discuss appointing that member at large. So any questions about that? So a little bit of a lag here, so I'll just cover them. The members shall serve until a replacement is qualified pursuant to section 2.1, subsection F. A key part here I want to make a specific mention of is appointments to the policy committee shall be for a period of 2 years. A member may be reappointed with no limitation on the number of terms except that such term will not continue in the event an officer becomes ineligible for membership on the policy committee. Here are another couple key points there on the screen. Shall meet at least once per quarter or as often as necessary. Quorum shall consist of 4 members of the voting membership. Use of proxies by the voting members is prohibited. Official actions of the committee shall be by affirmative action of the majority of the voting membership present and voting at public meetings. It does show there that the chairman and vice chair shall rotate. That's under letter F. And then it also gets into responsibility of the chair. So any questions about these or anything you would potentially like to see modified? Okay, we'll move on to administration, which states the MPO shall be led by a transportation planning director. And there's several terms in here also. I did want to make a mention now that I'm hitting this point. In looking at other MPOs, there is a little bit of variation in the verbiage. So I've seen several are referred to as MPO executive director. I think MPO director is also used, and MPO transportation planning director. So I've seen, between Corpus area MPO, Laredo, El Paso, I'm trying to think of a few that we looked at. They tend to use different terms for the director. And then also going back a little bit, even you yourself as the committee, I've seen 2 different terms. I've seen Transportation Policy Board, TPB is sometimes abbreviated, or Policy Committee. and Policy Board. So I think that's another thing that, we want to identify for ourselves and say, this is how what we're gonna call ourselves, because it's not a standard thing for the committee name or the director name. But the responsibilities of the director, which is considered MPO staff, is to support the policy committee, oversight and coordination of MPO administration and transportation activities, grant administration, maintaining records, providing notice of meetings as required by the public participation process. There's several other, details in there, but it's essentially the staff is here to support you, the policy committee. Any questions on this item? And then there's a section 2.4 on the ethics policy, which kind of goes in line with some of the items you mentioned in your oath. You've got this in your packet. Any questions or suggestions for this section?
No, sir.
Shall we keep moving on?
Yes, please.
And then the last section is amendments, and so that, we may be able to do amendments as necessary. So that concludes the bylaws as they currently exist. I'm not sure if the committee would like to entertain, if you'd like to do a motion, or you think you need more information and maybe brings...
I think these are pretty basic bylaws, good bylaws. So at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the bylaws of the Eagle Pass MPO.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the bylaws by Councilman Diaz.
I'll second.
We have a second by Ms. Sarah Hidalgo Cook. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. At this time, we'll go ahead and move to item number 2. Discussion and possible action to elect an at-large member to serve annually on the MPO Policy Board.
Yeah, so I don't have anything, any slides or anything to present, but this would be the committee's opportunity to name that 7th member.
Perfect. We've had discussions about this item, and we have some of our partners here from the Kickapoo tribe, very valued members of our community. We always work together when it comes to the county, the city, and the Kickapoo tribe. So I would suggest to the board that we include somebody of their choosing, somebody that they think would be a good fit for this board. I think they do a lot for the community when it comes to economic development, just growth for the city and the county. So I think it would be a right decision to include a member of the Kickapoo tribe in this board. Does anybody want to add or make a motion to that effect?
Is the tribe amenable to?
Yes.
To join, yes?
Yes.
And would there be do you already have an individual who would be willing to serve in that capacity?
Yeah, that's something that we talk about of the possibility with the tribal council already. And it was mentioned, the tribe was at the beginning suggesting to be the Economic Development Board, which is the 3 members. However, I don't think that it's something that is well structured or will work in this, for this, right? If it's a person that needs to be appointed, tribal council mentioned that if there's the possibility to join this committee, to appoint Estavio Elizondo Jr. as for the position.
Very well. With the recommendation of the tribe, and of course with the recommendations coming from the chair, I would move forward with the appointment of Mr. Estavio Elizondo Jr. serving as the 7th board member.
We have a motion by Judge Cantu and the second by Commissioner Ramos. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Congratulations. And thank you all for being here. It means a lot to us, and I know that when we're together, we can accomplish way more things. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move to item number 3, comments from public.
So this section is a little different for me, at least, primarily my experience dealing with the city, but I think text that kind of type of standard where there's an opportunity for the public. And so I included a couple bullet points there. I'm not sure if we have anyone from the public that would like to comment or ask a question.
So
And
is
this
this
was-
similar to citizens' communications? or-
It's similar, but with a discussion aspect, not just a one-way time deal. There can actually be back and forth.
Great.
And so there is a, currently as it stands in our, in the verbiage, it would be a total of 15 minutes for this particular section unless the chair would like to request a change on that. And also, comments from the public are, must not exceed 3 minutes each to try to keep
Okay.
that to a minimum time, so.
The difference is it can be a dialogue with policy.
That's correct.
Members, okay.
Anything from our tech stat friends that you could comment about this particular item and how those typically go in other MPOs?
Do you typically have a lot of people show up and make comments, public comment?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, my name is Bob Hazlett. I used to serve with the Maricopa Association of Governments, which is the MPO for Phoenix, Arizona, and we always had this comment period from the public. It was a dialogue, as you had identified, and it was the opportunity for the MPO board to be able to hear, let those from the public be able to make comment. What's important here, though, is they have to fill out a request to speak form, so that way you can keep a tracking on that, and also too that it's kept to 15 minutes, no more than 3 minutes for presentation. We always found this to be very helpful. They could comment on items on the agenda, but not necessarily get added to the agenda because of open meeting laws and stuff like that. But we always found that this was extremely helpful to the dissemination of information, and also to help the policy board in terms of moving forward with their agenda.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always good to give the public that opportunity to be heard, especially on important matters like this.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it's opportunity for dialogue for items that are not on the agenda, but no action may be taken, right?
That is correct. It's also it has to be within the purview of the MPO itself.
Very
So,
good.
for example, the individual that's talking can't come in and talk about, something specific with Maverick County or something specific with the city. It has to be under the purview of the MPO.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Can I add something?
Please do.
My name is Kirk Favre, for the record, Federal Highway Administration. Each MPO is required to develop a public participation plan, and that plan is supposed to be sent out to the public for 45 days for public input. That public participation plan is how you address your plan, your tip, your other studies and programs, and that documents, that kind of cements the foundation for your public involvement process. So you might want to think of that as your fourth document. You got your plan, tip, UPWP, but also public participation plan as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, should we move to the next? Yes. Item 4, discussion and possible action on policy board meeting schedule.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So I've got a calendar up before you. I'm sure, we can all pull up our phones too. So the, as you probably recall a few slides ago, the MPO Policy Committee shall meet at least quarterly or as necessary to perform the task of the MPO. So I know we'll want to avoid a couple of key dates. We've got City of Eagle Pass council meetings, the first Tuesday, County Commissioners Court. We want to definitely avoid those dates. So I wanted to give the opportunity for some dialogue here, and we can try to identify a date or at least narrow it down, and we could potentially bring this at a future meeting if we can't come up with a regular meeting date for this.
So you said we have to meet once per quarter?
Or as much as necessary.
Or as much as necessary.
So I would imagine with us just kicking off, we probably will need a little bit more than that moving forward.
Once a month?
Once a month maybe for the next couple of months and get some of these things established. And then I think maybe by January of 25 or thereabouts, we could potentially move into more of a quarterly.
Okay. I think that's reasonable, once a month. Is that everybody able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, now we have to let's pick a day in the week. Monday? What?
Commissioners Court is on Monday.
On Monday? Okay.
But we can, it just depending if we have, it's normally the second Monday is the regular, and then we have the fourth Thursday is set for the special meeting. But as Commissioners Court say, I tend to have meetings every week. So it just all depends, but we can work it out. As long as we set a date, we'll.
Are they
work it
typically
out.
Mondays?
Typically Mondays, but it's either Monday or Thursdays.
How about the second Wednesday of every month?
That would work.
That works?
Yes.
That's the second Wednesday, and what's a good time for everyone? A lunch meeting or after 5?
During the day.
Lunch, I think lunch meeting is good for me, but like, in terms of time, what are we looking at?
It won't be as long as this, once
Yeah.
we're up and running. Probably less than an hour, or, I don't know, do you have any guidance on that? I think, how do the other MPOs run?
Well, typically, a typical MPO meeting would probably take about maybe 2 hours.
2 hours, okay.
It really depends on how many agenda items you have and that sort of thing.
So let's every second Wednesday, let's shoot for second Wednesday of every month we can meet.
Do we narrow down a time?
Noon? Yeah. 12.
Okay, we can always amend as necessary, so,
Okay, does that work? Yeah. Okay, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion to that effect, setting our meeting dates on the second Wednesday of every month at 12.
So moved.
We have a motion by Councilman Diaz,
Second.
second by Judge Cantu. Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. So now we move to item 5, discussion and possible action on Technical Advisory Committee TAC bylaws.
So on this item, we have, what's in your packet is pretty simple, just a couple of areas. I think it has room for improvement for some technical advisory committee bylaws. That would be a subcommittee, an advisory committee to you. With the help of Mr. Bob Hazlett, he did help me locate an out-of-state TAC that had their bylaws online. I couldn't find any in Texas that had their bylaws online. So I believe that should be added into your folder packet, but I think maybe that one needs a little bit more work, and we could potentially bring that before you for the next meeting for TAC bylaw review and consideration.
So you think we should visit that at the next meeting?
I would suggest that.
Okay,
yeah.
so
We'll bring a little bit better, a better product for you to review and consider.
Okay. With that said, do we maybe want to table this item?
I'll make a motion to table.
We have a motion to table this item by Councilman Diaz,
Second.
second by Judge Cantu. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous. We'll go ahead and table item 5 and move to item number 6. Discussion and possible action regarding appointment of Technical Advisory Committee TAC members.
Yeah, so this item goes hand in hand with the previous, but I think it would be important for the committee to start thinking of who are some people or entities that would be able to provide good representation for an advisory committee. And so I'll cover a draft of what we have. Again, we try to follow kind of what Laredo was doing. And on the current draft, we're showing City of Eagle Pass, city manager appointee, city engineer or appointee, bridge general manager. Obviously, there's a lot of freight and traffic with our bridge system, county and regional representatives, Maverick County engineer or appointee, planning director or appointee, SWART, general manager appointee, state representatives. TxDOT would definitely be key members here, federal representatives, and that could be FHWA and also potentially other Kickapoo tribe. I know they mentioned they have a 3-member economic development management team, so potentially the other 2 members could be part of the TAC. And I did want to show here hopefully, I'm not sure if you could see that very well, but I took a screenshot from the Laredo Webb County TAC membership.
Palacio, if I can, Mayor, if I can
Yes,
make a comment?
please.
Yeah, so I think, I saw you tabled the other one. I think it's very important, right? This technical committee is, I always think, from looking across the state, like MPOs have really strong technical committees. That's going to strengthen your policy committee, right? So I think it's very important to identify strategically who you want on there, and then just really set forth, obviously, there's guidelines as far as what they do and actions that they take, and really they're reviewing and making recommendations ultimately to the policy, right, committee, because you are the ultimate, the voting
Yes,
body.
sir.
But I think it's very, very important, so I just wanted to make sure everyone understands that technical committee does serve a good purpose, because they're the ones really that are getting in the weeds a lot of the times, and then helping provide recommendations to the policy committee. That's technically how they operate.
Excellent.
Is this one appointee per board member, or are we choosing at large, or how?
Not necessarily, and again, I welcome TechSet to help us out with what's typical in other MPOs.
And do they meet also regularly?
They do. That will be another item is
Okay.
trying to establish a schedule for that.
Okay.
They should meet as necessary. But I definitely welcome TechStat to add.
The way it typically works is each government entity that has a representative on the policy committee can appoint TAC members as TAC representatives who would provide advice to the policy committee members that they represent.
So how many can we appoint, Mr. Madera?
My understanding, there's no limit. And so looking at some of the others, like Laredo's, they have a pretty extensive list. There's not a
Yeah.
cap.
We kind of follow Laredo's example on the draft we helped the staff develop here, but you have all the latitude you want. If you want to name other entities, even non-government entities, like say Chamber of Commerce, you certainly have the latitude to do that.
So,
And you could have as many representatives from the various jurisdictions as you deem appropriate.
would you think it's too many members if we have, let's say, 3 from the city, 3 from the county, 3 from the tribe, 9 members is plus actually the state and federal? Is that?
SWART as well.
And SWART, of course.
SWORD, and then I see that Railroad
Well-
is typical on others. So it will get fairly lengthy, the list of
or 2.
School system with their bus transportation.
Yeah, and
Colleges are also.
Some technical advisory committees include bicycle and pedestrian folks that represent that type of modal activity, active transportation. Federal Highway Administration has published an MPO briefing book. And in that briefing book, it shows the roles, responsibilities of each, the policy board, the technical advisory committee, and all the products and things that we'll be looking for over the next year. I was wondering, can I send you an electronic copy of that MPO briefing book? And maybe it's already been made available. Oh, okay. You have it.
Yeah,
I see
feel
the-
free to send it. Bob's given me a couple copies of that. He told me they're like gold.
Yeah,
So-
but the electronic versions you can send out to the policy board
Very good,
members.
we'll do that.
It kind of identifies the roles, responsibilities of the TAC and the policy board in more detail, written.
It's an additional appointee or
Yeah.
not.
In discussing with the judge, we see that the membership here in the agenda item has 10 people. I mean, that seems like a reasonable number of people. If we add more, it might get a little too much to establish a quorum. It can get difficult. But I guess we can start thinking about who we want to appoint, make sure we get people that are going to be involved, that will be able to make time to come to the meetings, because it's very, very important.
Very good point. I think just the one other thing to consider, and feel free again to help me, is even in the name technical, so it would ideally be people knowledgeable and experienced in the area of transportation planning, because they will be doing a lot of the technical legwork to provide recommendations to your committee.
Yes, sir.
That's one item that I wanted to add. The tribe is open also to provide any support that is needed, meaning on those areas, as you specify, that, for example, director of the public works or director of the road and bridge and things like that, any technical support that is needed, that the tribe will be open for any.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so anything else, Mr. Madera, that you wanted to add?
Nothing else. I'm not sure. Would you like to just table that for now as
Sure.
go along with the
Since we don't have the
bylaws?
members, we'll have them at the next meeting. I'll ask for this to be tabled. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Judge Cantu, and the second, Ms. Cook was the second. Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, we table item 6.
Okay, Mayor Salinas, if I may.
Yes.
I think you had asked a question also, which I don't think I addressed, was how frequently they meet. Typically, a TEC would meet maybe 2 to 3 weeks ahead of the policy committee to give them time to consider, things that staff wants to bring to the policy committee so that they can make recommendations.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
That's very, okay.
I'm just going to kind of jump in real quick because I just want to kind of have some clarification here. I know that obviously we have a wealth of knowledge that's around this particular table here in regards to the subject in question with the MPO. But is there, or I guess the question is, as far as when it comes down to consultants that are actually experts in this and that will be assisting this policy committee, is there something like that we're looking at? I mean, because Palacio, you've done an exceptional job, but I just want to make sure that we're kind of, are we following the right methods? Are we following the right processes for this to move forward? I mean, I've always believed that, that we tend to look towards those experts that might be there to assist us in that. And I don't even know how that would even happen, or if there's, what type of funding capability or availability there is for something like that.
That's a really, really good question, Judge Cantu. So the city, so until the UPWP, which is one of the planning documents that we're going to be talking about later, until that's both approved by our local committee and then also through the state level, the MPO is not eligible for funding for reimbursements at this time. So up to now, the city is in the process, and we're pretty close to finalizing a contract with a general planning consultant who specializes in MPO-related matters. And actually, Mr. Tim is here with Stanley Consulting, Timoteo. So up until the MPO UPWP is approved and we have that funding, the city would be covering the cost for anything that the consultant, the work they would do. So in a future item or meeting, the MPO can consider, I believe is a work order or task. Maybe Tim could add a little bit commentary to that on how the MPO can adopt, because that solicitation and purchasing process went through the city. So the MPO would need to potentially agree to keep that one, or maybe even go for a new.
If you want to approach the mic and introduce yourself, sir.
Afternoon, Timoteo Juarez with Stanley Consultants. As Mr. Madera noted, the city several months ago issued an RFP for a competitive bid for general planning services in support of MPO. We were one of the firms that submitted that and was gratefully selected by the city to provide those services. So just a little background on myself. I retired from TxDOT in 2021 after 34 years of service. Before I retired, I was the manager for international trade and border planning. So my group developed the 2021 Border Transportation Master Plan. But previous to that, I had 16 years of doing metropolitan planning when the federal legislation known as Intermodal Surface Transportation Efficiency Act of 1991, known as ICE-T, came out. I was one of the original team members that helped TxDOT develop the Metropolitan program that you see still in use today. So we stand ready to provide those services. Prior to this meeting, we have been providing information to the city regarding the necessary documents that need to be approved, the order in which they need to be approved, and the steps going forward so that we can get the city off and the MPO off on the right step. So hopefully I answered and addressed your question.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Timoteo.
Yeah, and just to add one more piece to that. So I appreciate the nice comment you said about me, but I really can't take so much credit. We really couldn't be here without our friends with TxDOT. I was under the impression the city was going to need a lot more help, especially like through consulting, such as what Tim's firm does. But TxDOT has been very, very gracious in working with us, and also Bob and his team with TTI, Texas Transportation Institute. So they have really acted almost as a consultant for us to get a lot of what we have for now that we're presenting before you. So, yeah, thank you again. Couldn't have done this without you. Such a huge help from our TxDOT friends. But yeah, that's a really great question about having the expert consultants on board.
Can I add one?
This is new to everyone. So.
When we develop a contract
we can hear you.
develop a contract with the the contractor, the consultant, we follow the city procurement procedures to bring them on board. So the MPO, as part of the UPWP, would have a task within their Unified Planning Work Program that would show the work that will be done, the scope of work that will be done by the contractor. But the contractor, like Tim Juarez, would have to follow the city procurement process to get on board, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That's a really good point, Kurt. So being that we did do that, the city, we followed our procurement process, would a new process need to be done, a new solicitation for the, okay. They could just adopt. Okay, very good, thank you. Thank you for that question, Judge.
Okay. At this time, we'll move to item 7, discussion and possible action of an agreement between Eagle Pass MPO and the Texas Department of Transportation for a planning agreement.
Yeah, so this is a standard agreement, and I will defer to our friends with TxDOT if they have anything specific to describe about it, but it's a key agreement that we need to establish and sign with TxDOT. But go ahead, guys.
Well, just to introduce the topic, the federal regulations require the MPO to enter into an agreement with the state to establish roles and responsibilities for the use of planning funds. And it also requires that the fiscal agent, who will be, of course, fronting the money that is ultimately reimbursed, to be part of that agreement. It's really a three-party agreement that determines the responsibilities of those three agencies responsible for providing all the legwork and everything associated with the MPO.
I briefly went over the agreement. There's a lot of articles in this, but this is similar to all the other MPO agreements, I'm assuming, with
Yes,
TxDOT?
this is a standard template, so you'll find very little variation between this agreement that you see in front of you
Yes, sir.
and any other MPOs around the state.
Okay. And it's a requirement to move forward.
Yeah, there is a federal requirement that we have such an agreement in place, yes.
With that said, unless somebody has questions, I would entertain a motion on possibly approving this agreement.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion to approve the agreement by Ms. Sarah Hidalgo Cook. Excuse me. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Diaz. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Moving on to item 8, approval of a resolution that designates Southwest Area Regional Transit, SWART, as an eligible direct recipient of FTA Section 5307 funds in the urbanized area under 200,000 population. As a direct recipient of FTA funds, SWART will receive and manage federal funds to provide transit services in the Eagle Pass urbanized area. I'm assuming we left that off, but Placido?
Yes, thank you. So this is another, very specific item that is a requirement as part of our partnership with SWART in this case. So again, this is another item I would like to request help from both TxDOT and Ms. Sarah Hidalgo Cook to describe the necessity for this and the importance of it.
You want to go first?
Sure.
Ms. Cook?
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically, this is just an added resolution from the MPO. SWART has already submitted resolutions from the County of Maverick and also from the City of Eagle Pass designating SWART as the UZA or urbanized Transit District as well as the Rural Transit District. So now that the MPO is in place, this is required by FTA and TxDOT in order for SWART to move forward with activities of the urbanized transit system. The only other item that is pending will be a resolution from the tribe designating SWART as the urbanized transit district as well. So other than that, then we will have met FTA and TxDOT's requirements.
With that said, do we have a motion to approve the resolution with TxDOT? We do, by Judge Cantu. Do we have a second? Commissioner Ramos seconds. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous.
I'll
Thank you.
abstain.
And one abstention, Ms. Cook. Item 9, discussion and possible action of a representative from transit agency representative.
So, for this item, I think we would be,
This, okay.
I guess, considering, did you have a, somebody to nominate from SWART that was going to be the representative of the transit agency?
That would still need to go through our board of directors at the next board meeting, but my recommendation to our board will be Ms. Cinta Rodriguez.
Okay, so we can bring this back, this item back.
Would you like us to table this item, or?
That would be fine. I want to make sure that it goes through the board. Our next board meeting is scheduled for August, so.
Do we have a motion to table item 9?
So,
We do by Judge Cantu.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Diaz. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Unanimous. In looking at the agenda, I see that we went from 9 to 11. Is there a typo?
So I believe we have a space for consent agenda there.
Okay.
There are no items in that section.
Okay, no items in item 10, no consent agenda items, so we'll move to 11. Discussion and possible action on the Eagle Pass MPO Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP.
So this is the other key document. We're looking at somewhere in about 35, just under 40-page document. This covers planning and budgeting for the MPO. So this is one of this is pretty much the key item that we have the setup as more of a workshop type of setting. And so we would like to go through it and take questions and then move towards any direction that the policy committee would like to share for our UPWP, which again is a very critical document in order for us to be able to be eligible for MPO funding for reimbursement. And the fiscal year period for the MPO follows Federal Highway, which is at October through September. So we're getting fairly near the end of FY24, and in October we'll be reaching FY25. So we'll move into the document itself. And actually, we do have some slides that Mr. Bob Hazlett has, and I'd invite him to give a overview of it, of a UPW.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Policy Board for the Eagle Pass Metropolitan Planning Organization, we have been working, we being a collective, working with city staff, Placido, and also with the Texas Department of Transportation and Texas Transportation Institute to put together a draft of the UPWP, and I believe that that draft, it's a little bit of a drafty draft, but it is in your packet. And so what we thought we would do is walk you through all the different parts of why you have to do this, why it is a part and it's a requirement, and it's something that is done annually. Although this one is going to cover, since you're incorporating right now here in July, you still have a couple of months here in 2024, the fiscal year, and then it will also cover all of fiscal year 2025. On this particular slide, these are the key work products that the Policy Board will be working on. You see them right there in the middle. The Unified Planning Work Program is highlighted there in blue. But we show up here on this chart, both the state and the local. So you can see that what is required of the MPO is also required at the state level as well as at the local level. And so the work programs themselves, the state has something called their planning and research work, the SPR, but then at the local level, you put together an annual budget and appropriations. Your next document you'll be working on will be your Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which also includes a 10-year planning horizon per Texas law. But then at the state level, there's the long-range plan. But then at the local level, you have sometimes a thoroughfare plan or a service plan. Your next part will be the improvement plan, and that takes the first few years of your Metropolitan Transportation Plan and says these are what the projects that we're going to do. That's called the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Program. At the state level, they have something called the STIP, but there's also, too, as Director Tito had identified, there's the UTP, the Unified Transportation Plan, that also helps to identify what's happening over the next 10 years. But at the local level, that would be your capital improvement program. And then for outreach, Mr. Farber had talked about this earlier. This will be the other document you'll be developing as your public participation plan, the PPP. There is one at the state level called the Public Involvement Program, the PIP. But then also, too, at your local level, you also have the municipal programs. And so as you can see, with this organization, you're putting together documents that are very similar to what you have at both your local level as well as at the state level. And so that kind of keeps the planning consistent, if you will, across all levels of governance, if you will, for the transportation system. Now, the order of precedence in terms of what comes first, the UPWP is what pretty much puts everything together. It dictates your effort. It tells what is going to be that the MPO is going to be working on, and it informs the public and says, these are the efforts, these are the projects that we're going to be doing. It can be either for a 1 or a 2 year period. Right now, since you're just kind of getting started, yours is going to be a 1.3 year period, more or less. But the best way to look at it is that every year this document will come up and you'll want to work with this. Now, the one thing about the UPWP is that it covers all transportation modes, so that doesn't just mean surface transportation in terms of trucks and cars and stuff like that. It also includes public transportation and active transportation, whether that's bike and pedestrian. And also, too, again, as the MPO is a place where you can gather all together all of these planting entities, you do coordinate this with the stakeholders and also with member agencies. From there, then you're able to go ahead and start to do the MTP, which feeds up some information as been identified by the TP&D director, that it does go to the 10-year plan and then also towards the TIP itself. So you can just kind of see through this what this is. And then you see down there at the bottom the continuing, comprehensive, and cooperative. I got them out of order. But this is what is called 3C planning. This has been around since 1962 when MPOs were first identified. If you go back in the presentation, you'll see that long timeline that was done. And again, that outreach, it's meant to be that. It's a 3C planning process. This is something that our federal partners have been having us do for the better part of, well, 60 years. So it's been around for a long time. So again, that's the precedence for these. Okay, I don't want to bore you with all of the different points with it, but there are points in federal code, both in the USC as well as the United States Code, as well as the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulations, in terms of what you have to do with your Unified Planning Work Program. The biggest part is those bullets you see on the side. Identify your planning data and analysis task. Identify what your outreach activities will be. Talk about your Metropolitan Transportation Plan and your TIP preparation, and then any other federally funded studies that might come in, because sometimes there are some instances where there might be some studies that might come through that might have some federal funding attached with it that has to be identified in the Unified Planning Work Program. Another part of this, and this is something that comes with all the different highway acts that we have, is that there are certain planning elements that the federal government, since this is money a lot of times it's coming through from them, of things that they would like for the MPOs to start to tackle. And as you can see here, there's roughly about 20 different items. Some of these date back to some of the earlier Transportation Surface Acts, but the last 6 of them that are down there all come from the IIJA or bill, which is the latest one. where they want the MPOs to start to consider in their planning process things like tackling the climate crisis, equity and justice 40, complete streets, virtual public involvement, which you are already doing right now. We see the cameras around. The strategic highway network, STRANET, the US DOD coordination, federal lands, planning and environmental linkages, and then data and transportation planning. Again, these are certain things that do come down, and in the narrative that has been prepared, there is discussion provided on how the Eagle Pass MPO might choose to go ahead and address these planning emphasis areas. Now, the resources that are available, your friends at TxDOT are well ahead of the game here, where they have a template that allows this to happen, and it's provided by the April 1st of each year. It's not an April Fool's thing, but they do provide it the first of every April, which allows the MPOs to be able to develop their UPWPs. So the document that you see before you is a standard template, and it does conform with all the other MPOs. I mean, this is the same document, not only that Eagle Pass will do, but think about your other MPO partners, whether it's Houston or Dallas-Fort Worth, NCT COG, or El Paso. They're all preparing the exact same document. They have to do the exact same thing. The other thing that's also important, unfortunately, it's kind of washed out here with the projector, but there is an UPWP checklist that will help make certain that all these different points are in here. This is something that was prepared by TxDOT's TPP division that allows us to make certain that, that all these things are being put in here. So what's included in it? Well, there's a cover. Just like every document, you have a cover, but there's certain things that have to be put on there. This will be the UPWP duration will be for the balance of FY 2024 and FY 2025. There is a title page, there is a table of contents, but then there's the body of the document. This is the most important part, and it's divided into 5 parts. The first one under administration and management, more or less known as Task 1, data development and maintenance, Task 2, short-range planning, Task 3, and then Task 4, what efforts are being done on the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and then whatever special studies would be Task 5. And then the last part would be some appendices. These are a lot of legal ones that the board will have to act on, talking about, at least identifying who your membership, who your TACID membership is, who's your MPO staff, your boundary maps, debarment certification, lobbying certification, and then also certification of internal ethics and compliance program, which I think is already a part of your bylaws now. Okay, so what's in this document? This is mainly a high-level look because, again, I think it's just wanted to get the board familiar with what this document is so that they can start to ask questions along the way. And then I think, I don't know, Placido, it's your intent to maybe bring it back for maybe adoption next meeting. This is the budget that's been identified. About what's available right now in terms of TPF, or Transportation Planning Funds, to the Eagle Pass MPO is right now for fiscal year 2024 is about $180,000. And then another $180,000 would come in fiscal year 2025 with a little bit of a bump for cost of living. That may change. It might go up a little bit more. There's more discussions that are underway. But you can see where it's been divided amongst the 5 tasks. Right now, the FTA 5307 is not identified, but then the Federal Tribal Transportation Program Safety Fund, which now that the Kickapoo Standard Tribe is now a part of, the $10,000 is identified and captured in this. And so you can see here amongst that's where a budget right now of roughly about $290,000, $291,000 is being identified for the balance of fiscal year 24 and all of fiscal year 2025. Some of the highlights that we have here, again, going back to those 5 tasks under administration and management, there is discussion about planning and administration, computer equipment and office supplies for the MPO, professional development and public participation plan in terms of getting that started. Under the data development and maintenance, discussion about how the MPO will continue to identify and maintain GIS databases, and also maybe begin the option of doing a travel demand model in cooperation with our friends at TxDOT. And then short-range planning. The UPWP update, you have to, even though you're doing a UPWP now, you still have to identify that, you're going to be doing an update here about this time next year for fiscal year 26. And so again, identifying the time that's in for that, any planning assistance, and then also the complete street set aside, which is something that has come through from the IIJA. The actual next part, you don't have a metropolitan transportation plan. Normally, on a year-to-year basis, once you have a metropolitan transportation plan, you just say you're updating it and doing amendments. But in this particular instance, and as was shown on the slide before, $150,000 has been identified to establish the plan over that period. And roughly, just so you're aware, to put together a metropolitan transportation plan experiences, at least in my background, it's roughly about an 18-month process because it includes a very important public outreach process that you do need to work through. And then the last part is the special studies from for the Kickapoo traditional tribe of Texas. So the highlights that we have is the combined funds actually that's there is about 180,000, and then the unexpended carryover, which is from this current fiscal year, which means that you have roughly about 360,000. But right now, the UPWP is showing programmed about 281,000. So there's still some buffer in there in terms of that. This item is for information discussion, and also to the adoption of this document is recommended for your August 24th policy board meeting. And so, Mr. Chairman, with that, I complete my presentation. Be happy to take any questions. Be a tag team amongst all these folks here.
Mayor, I have
Yes,
a couple
please.
questions. And I don't know if this would be TxDOT, TTI, or the consultants. So the reality of SWART's particular situation financially is that for the last 2 years, we have pretty much utilized rural transit funding, both FTA and state funding, to operate the urbanized system. And this year, the second year, it has taken a toll to the point that TxDOT is working with us to forward some of next year's state funding, both on the urbanized side and the rural side, to help us finish the fiscal year out, even with quite a bit of reductions in service and also reductions in costs and staff. Moving forward, in order to be able to access that allocation of federal funds for 5307, the MTP and the TIP have to be in place, as well as the TIP approved and submitted to TxDOT so they can include it in their STIP, so, which is a statewide transportation improvement plan. The issue at hand for SWART at this point is we cannot afford to wait 18 months for an MTP, MPT, I'm sorry. So I know that TxDOT is working with FTA in trying to see if there is some way that SWART can bypass those, that particular requirement in order to be able to have us access funds. That's the bottom line. We cannot continue to operate an urbanized system in Eagle Pass with the funding that we currently receive that's trying to share the cost with a rural system. And Judge Cantu, you can probably attest to kind of our situation since you're on our board. But that's just something to keep in mind as a policy board, consultants as well, TxDOT as well. We know what our allocation is for FY 2025, but we're not going to be able to access it, which is about 1.3 million just to run the urbanized system, which will automatically allow for the rural funding to go back to where it's meant to go back to, which is the rural services. So this is just something to keep in mind when we're talking about plans and we're talking about 18 months out and so forth. I know that we're on a fast track, and I know Placido's done a great job, and TxDOT, Laredo's done a great job, but that doesn't, that kind of time frame does not help us as far as being able to provide the service to the residents. The other part of it is that this is not only affecting the public transportation side, this will also affect any kind of highway funding that comes down the pipeline for the county and the city, where those type of funding opportunities are not going to be available until the tip and the MPT are completed. So that's just something to keep in mind. You know, we're talking 18 months, like if it's very nonchalant, but it's not. You know, especially in our case where we transport people to life-saving appointments and life-saving services. So, just a thought. I mean, just something to say.
What is that, 18 months from when? Today?
Mr. Chairman, the remark that I made was meant to illustrate just how long it takes to put a metropolitan transportation plan together with a full public process. And it's when it gets started is really when it happens. But I believe what Ms. Hidalgo Cook has identified is that we're kind of with a chicken before the egg or an egg before the chicken
Right.
possibility right now. And so, yeah, there may have to be some other options here to help bridge that until the MTP is in place.
And I think that's probably going to have to be a joint meeting and conversation between TxDOT, FTA, FHWA, and the MPO. You know, because I'll be honest with you, we're in a world of hurt right now.
I think one thing that the Rio Grande Valley MPO did when they just formed their new MPO and they combined 3 entities into one, they had an interim plan. And the interim plan took the place, was updated eventually, like after 18 months, with the real plan. They called it a Volkswagen versus a Ferrari at the time. So they went with a Volkswagen at the beginning so they could authorize projects and transit and highway projects. And then later, like a year and a half later, they came up with a full plan adopted by the MPO. Is that something you guys would consider in this area or not?
I would say so, but again, the policy board, what do you?
I mean, this is all very new to me. For me to formalize an opinion of that, I need to look at this a little closer and maybe even get with, like the judge was saying, or an expert to give us the correct advice as to how we want to move forward.
Just one option I just wanted to throw out, because that's what they did in another part of the state, but there may be another answer. I mean, you want to get quickly and very efficiently towards your plan, and that's one route that you could possibly take, but I don't know, it's still open for discussion.
Yeah, I think several good points were made, like,
Yes.
let's evaluate, let's start calling, like, getting meetings together, seeing what are our options and how do we get there quicker than, as quick as possible, right?
I know that as far as the city goes, we'll be getting together with our administration, our legal counsel to, by the next meeting, have more information. And this is just all for discussion today, right? As far as the UPWP?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. Mr. Chairman, I might also add that in the state of Arizona, which is where most of my experience is, not to say that I'm not qualified, hopefully, to help you out here in Texas, we had 4 MPOs come online last census. And I will be happy to look into how those MPOs address this situation, because that was to Ms. Hidalgo Cook's point, that is a very, very, it just gets into that chicken versus the egg type deal. But at the same time, too, they were able to move forward with what they were able to do and still have a robust planning process in terms of moving towards their metropolitan transportation plans and getting those enacted. So I'll be happy to look at that and advise Placido as well as anyone else on how those MPOs started their efforts.
Thank you.
I'll have some more information from Eric Gleason, who's the Executive Director for Public Transportation at TxDOT. He's the one that's actually spearheading this particular initiative as far as trying to help us in this particular issue that we have with, like you said, the chicken before the egg or vice versa. So.
Does anyone have any other questions?
I think in preparing for the transition, I think the most important thing for us is going to be, you know, how do we close that gap? As we make this transition, how do we close that gap? And so if it would be helpful, at least for me, to look at some data, to think about how many people are being impacted, how many appointments does that translate to, look at other resources if possible in the area, and if those clients could be linked there, and then what the foreseeable gaps are. And maybe we'd better be able to make a decision that way.
Thank you, Councilman. Anything further? Since this is for information, we thank you for that presentation, and we'll bring it up for action at the next policy board meeting. So at this time, we'll move on to 12, Executive Director's Report by Mr. Madera. Thank you, sir.
So don't have anything additional to add here. Once we get going with this, we will have, potentially you'll be giving us some homework and things to do, and we'll be coming back with those reports to provide updates. So nothing to report at this time.
Okay. Item 13, items to be requested for future board meetings.
So this ties in with some of the things that Mr. Favre with FHWA brought up, with the public participation plan, with things that Ms. Hidalgo Cook brought up, with MTPs and the implications that come with us not having those established. So we want to discuss what do we have on our upcoming agenda and to-do list to try to get going with all these things. So if the board is open to it, we may want to look at a meeting in August, and some of those items shown there, we did adopt bylaws today. So I had, if necessary, I wasn't sure if we may need some additional information there. We also can consider possible action on the UPWP, which it sounds like that's the way we're going here in terms of coming back, reviewing that a little bit more closely. TAC bylaws, we'll be bringing that back, future meeting. Also, a fairly standard part of MPO meetings, what I saw is that TxDOT and FHWA has a section similar to the MPO director to provide reports and information, so I've got that listed there. Discussion on tempo is a suggestion from our friends with TxDOT that explaining that to the board, the Texas MPO organization, bringing back the meeting schedules for both policy committee as well as for TAC could be something else to be discussed. MPO consultant, Judge Cantu brought up that question earlier, and so that could be another item we bring in terms of adopting or approving a MPO consultant to come on board. The public participation plan, very important document that is probably one of the first orders of action in establishing that, so that everything else that we do should be following those public involvement procedures. And upcoming staff activities and meetings. So that's for August. Again, then we've got similar items for September, which have a couple of other new items. But, again, we have a lot to do, so I don't want to overwhelm things. So one step at a time. But do you have any questions with anything, either with August or what you're seeing for September, and then potentially in October, November, before we maybe by January move into more of a quarterly type of recurring meeting?
At this point, I have no questions. I think it's been a good first meeting to establish this MPO, right? A lot of information. So I'll be getting together with our city administration, our legal counsel, and we'll make recommendations as far as what to bring for the next meeting.
Very good.
All right. Any questions from anyone?
No, I think that just in regards to that, Mayor, I think, of course, city staff, since it's being kind of led in this effort by the MPO and through the way that this is being set up as the city serving as the fiscal agent for the MPO, we'll be able to, obviously, any one of the members of this committee will be able to visit with you all in order to address these matters and to kind of set forth any concerns or future requests for agenda items, or however we proceed. We'll be able to visit specifically and directly with that. Would that be you, Placido, or?
At this time, it would be me.
Okay.
You guys are the MPO, so ultimately you can make a call if you want to go in a different direction, but as of now, that would be me, yes, sir.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect. All right.
And so I'm glad you brought...
We'll talk about that at the next meeting.
Sounds good. I'm glad you bring up, just in general these points, so I think this would be a good point as we're getting close to wrapping up. Any other questions or homework you'd like to have us working on prior to the next meeting? Not at this time?
Not at this time. So, I
Okay.
mean, we've covered a lot, so. But before we adjourn, I want to thank everybody for being here, and thank you for being patient, at least with me, because I feel this is something new to the city, but something very positive. It's exciting, right? So thank you so much, everyone that's here present today, making this MPO possible. With that said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved by Judge Cantu.
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Hidalgo Cook. All in favor, say aye. Unanimous. Meeting is adjourned at 1:48 p.m.